Well, hello everyone. I'm Marty Rasmussen from Pivot Point Action Coach again, and we are here for the Business Owner Spotlight interview. And I'm telling you, we have a very special guest. They've all been special, but I personally have been really looking forward to having Dietrich on the call with us today because he's got a fantastic story and a very unique and niche business. And I think you're going to find it absolutely fascinating, both in the work that he does for people but also in the work that he's done in business and even the education that he has. And so, Dietrich, welcome to Business Owner Spotlight. We're so grateful to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Marty. Looking forward to this.
Yeah. So, Dietrich, you are the founder and CEO, and you have started this business in that's growing. Uh, sorry, Darn it, I guess when I restarted, I lost one of my windows. Pardon me. We'll edit this out. I'm just going to pause real quick.
No problem. No
Oh,
problem.
darn. I hate errors, so just so you know. Um,
Marty, you're proving a point though for my business, like with videography and stuff. This is what I do typically too, is when we set up equipment and stuff, there's so many tech checks and all that stuff. But this is, nature of the beast.
yeah, and I always sign in early,
I know it.
and I thought those bugs would have been worked out ahead of time. So, okay,
All good.
so we'll just jump back into it again. So, if Dietrich, again, welcome to Business Owner Spotlight. We're grateful to have you with us today.
Oh,
Um,
yeah,
so
thank you for
Dietrich,
having. Oh, sorry, Marty. I didn't realize you were going back to the very start. Yeah, thank you for having me here, Marty. Looking forward to this.
we're grateful. Well, just to give everyone a little bit of background on Dietrich, he is the CEO and founder of Inherited Stories, which is a legacy documentary creation company that works with families to preserve their life stories and the personalities of those they love. I just think this is such a unique niche that is going to really play well with our audience in terms of their own personal lives. But I'm also anxious to hear about the business story. Dietrich found success as an Emmy Award recipient video storyteller, so we've got a star on the show as well, digital content creator, and also a communications strategist. And he's actually taught and developed video storytelling for people of all different ages. And he got his bachelor's and his master's degree both from the University of St. Thomas here in Minnesota. And he lives in Edina, which is his hometown. So, Dietrich, thank you for sharing a little bit of your life story today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Always happy to share about our business, and thank you for that introduction. Inherited Stories is so much more than a business to me. It's, in a lot of ways, I say it's a calling, because for me, a lot of people will often say, well, your business is a niche. And I say, no, nah, it's the evolution, or yeah, the next level of what I see people doing at the end of their life, um, as a way to, honest to God, capture their journey, capture their lived experience, and really do some self-reflection about what mattered to them in their life. It wasn't everything, right? It's not that Starbucks cup of coffee you got this morning. It's the big moments, the big choices, people who have influenced them, and how that impacted their journey. The hobbies that they love to do and want to show off, the skills, all that stuff that makes us who we are. And so anyway, I'm rambling, but I'm very passionate about my business, and I love doing this work.
Yeah, so maybe just a couple of short personal stories from me. My daughter, a number of years ago, I had overcome some health challenges on my own. And so one year for Father's Day, she gave me a book, basically a journal, and it was kind of a guided journal, if you will. And it was just like, just wanted to get to know dad better, right? And have something as a little bit of a heirloom or something to keep after, if something happened to me. God, thank God it didn't. But so that's one thing that I really liked. But I'm not much of a handwriter, and no matter how good I could write, I don't think I could tell the story And so I think of video, the video format that you have. I mean, you get the personality, you get the people, you get the being able to see people face to face. And I've got a 94-year-old dad, and he is a great storyteller, and he knows our family line really well. He has a whole bunch of information up here that I think would be super valuable to be able to share with the rest of the family through something like this. But anyway, enough about my personal stories. This is all about you. So, but that's
No,
where I think
I,
connecting, right?
Marty, I love that. I love that you made that personal connection because this is what the work is about. It is about viewing people as individuals. It's about celebrating that unique knowledge and wisdom that only they have. And so when you talk about, you actually bring up one of the things that I share when I give presentations. Not everyone can write well. You know, that's a skill to be able to write a really nice novel or a biography about your life. But I think most people can have a conversation. Most people can sit down with someone, and if you've kind of set up the tone and you know this person has my best intentions at heart, they're really just trying to help me capture my story and take an interest in who I am, it's a totally different conversation and way of preserving someone's journey, which is, I think the beauty of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, actually, Journey is a perfect lead into my first question, if I may. And that is, I'm fascinated. I know our listeners will be too. How did this journey start for you?
Yeah, boy, where do I start here? I think at the heart of it's two things. One, my grandma. I grew up as an adoptee, um, and the reason it's relevant is a lot of, and this may seem rambly, but stay with me. A lot of adoptees are known for having issues with identity and family lineage and that sort of stuff. And my grandma, I kid you not, was an angel on earth. She was the person who always said to me, God sent you here for me. You belong here, that sort of behavior and just welcome energy. So why that matters is as I was growing up, we moved back to Edina from Chicago where we were living, and my grandma was getting sick. Every Sunday, we would go to her house with my uncles, my dad, and I, and she'd make us her famous potato soup or lasagnas or whatever it was. And we would sit around and she'd tell all these fun stories to me because I was new to Edina and she wanted to make me feel so welcome. And we used to joke, hey, we should get a camera and record her. And, just because she was such a personality. And of course, we never did. She gets dementia, eventually Alzheimer's, and so we lost our chance. And that became like a big regret for me personally. It still is. Matter of fact, this is before cell phones were big, so we don't even have an audio recording of her voice or anything. And that stuck with me for a long time. So fast forward, I ended up, because of my grandma, getting into the industry of storytelling. I just love storytelling as a whole. And what happens is I go on to be a TV reporter. I go into work in film production and commercials. I end up teaching video storytelling to people of all ages. Literally, I've taught fourth graders. I've taught 90-year-olds how to use their cell phones, how to do video storytelling. But the big moment, the second moment that mattered was when I interviewed two of Edina's original police officers. And it's a fun story. I was doing this piece on the history of the Edina Police Department. And what ends up happening is we're sitting there and I say, well, guys, tell me about Southdale, which is our big mall here. And they say, Southdale Mall changed policing. And if you know a little bit about the history of our city, Southdale Mall was the first indoor mall in the entire country. And this is a big deal, big cultural moment. And before that, Edina was a farming community. So here's the stat they threw at me. They said before that mall opened, 100% of our crime was farm related. After the mall opened, 60% of crime was car burglaries. And I had to soak it in. I said, really? No way. And they said, do you believe us? And I said, should I? And they both laughed. No, we're lying. And I said, what do you mean? Well, what would happen is people would come to Southdale Mall from all over. I'm talking Iowa, the Dakotas, everywhere, right? and they love this movie. They go in shopping for a few hours, and Southdale had this new thing at the time called parking lots, and there were 4 of them. People come in, they go shopping for a few hours, and they come back out, and they panic because they couldn't find their car. So they call 911. They say, "Oh, someone stole my car, officer." And these 2 guys would show up and they'd say, "Did you check the other lots?" And like 9 out of 10 times, people, no idea. The reason that story, makes me laugh, and it's just so funny that you think about how many things have come off of that situation where people couldn't find their car in a lot, like beepers on our car keys and all that stuff. It made me think about how many regular people in the world have wonderful stories, but because they're not politicians, because they're not celebrities, they don't get interviewed about their lived experience. So about 4 months after that, I sat down and I came up with Inherited Stories. I left my job and I just went right for it. And this was right before COVID, so it was pretty tough. But we've persevered, and I mean, we're here where we are today, and I'm just thankful I get to do what I do. So that's kind of the backstory of how Inherited Stories started, and yeah.
I remember when Southdale Mall was built, which is says a little something about my age, but
We won't
but
go
yeah,
there. We won't go
yeah,
there.
yeah. Let's not. Let's go a little more current. So fascinating background, and just the approach that you're taking in preserving people's life stories with your company. Where are you today? I mean, so you've had this journey. Where is the business today?
Yeah, so we're actually in 4 states. We've got 8 salespeople. Right now, I do it all. I'm the shooter, I'm the producer, mostly because it's not that other video storytellers don't have an interest in it, but I want to find the right people. And so I'm very picky. I'm very selective. Part of my background is I served on the Emmy board. I'm an Emmy Award, recipient storyteller. So I look for particular folks who, and just to be very straightforward, I want people who love the storytelling part more than they love any other aspect. They love being with a family and learning about that journey and really building relationships, because that's what this business is about. It's about building relationships with families and with our community. And every person I've hired that does sales for us understands that. That's pretty critical. So in terms of where we want to go next, the big vision I have for us is that I want us to supplement funerals and celebration of life ceremonies. I think when you do just the simple value of what we're offering compared to a tombstone is tremendous. I mean, I'll just give you an example, right? The average cost of a funeral in the US is around $10,000 for a casket, right? Then you add on top the ceremony, which might be, I don't know, $3,000 to $4,000 on top. And for our base product, which is 6,500, you're getting a whole journey of someone's life, as opposed to a tombstone that says something generic like beloved mother or loving wife. It tells you nothing about who they are. And so I think consumers are smart enough to understand that what they'll be getting out of this is so much more valuable and so unique to their loved one. It's just it's impossible to match in so many ways.
Yeah, I was, you and I have met through the Dinah Chamber several times, and I've told my wife about your business, and she lost, well, we both lost our mothers a couple of years apart, but she was really close to her mom, and she would have loved to have this. This is one of those things that she would have played that video over and over and over again. I think it would have helped the grieving process too, right? I mean, in terms of the post, kind of worst case scenario, if you will, great while everybody's alive and can share it, at anniversaries and birthdays and special occasions and that kind of thing. But even after somebody passes, I think it'd be a tremendous opportunity to be able to help people just kind of walk through the pain of the loss. And I'm sure you've seen some of that through this journey, right?
Yeah, well, earlier this year, and not to date this video, but earlier this year, we interviewed a 7-year-old girl who had a terminal illness. This is back in January, and the hospital was saying she doesn't have much time. And so we made a memory of her. This is a little 7-year-old girl who's singing, laughing, singing her favorite Frozen songs, telling us jokes, like kid jokes, and all the good stuff that she wanted to focus on and just share. Well, a few months after we put together her memory, she passed away. And they played it at her funeral. And it was just incredible, the feedback, the impact it had for and I tear up being a father, but could you imagine a 7-year-old kid getting that much love, right? Getting that much recognition. It was just beautiful, right? So I think when you talk about impact, it's not just older people. It's really for a family of someone they care about and they want to remember the good stuff about them.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to cry on your video here, Marty, but boy,
That's
that
right.
hits me hard. Yeah, especially little
Yeah.
kids. It's just like, oh,
Oh yeah,
no.
what a blessing you are to that family, right? I mean, this must be very fulfilling for you in terms of
Oh,
the gift that you give back to the community and to the families.
I think at the end of the day, that's kind of the point of this business, right? I mean, I've always wanted to do purpose-driven work, work that makes an impact and has meaning, because there are so many roles that I've filled in the past where I was just like, okay, great, stockholders feel better, or great, no one's gonna watch this video, and I've spent how many hours doing the work? But the beauty of what we're doing with memories is that every family is so involved, it's impossible not to love the memory at the end. It's something that they'll cherish. And I'll just give you an example. Excuse me, one client, family who hired us early on. This is a cool journey. A woman in Iowa had heard about us. She hired us to come down, do pieces on her dad and mom. And her partner at the time, her boyfriend, loved it so much. He hired us to do a piece for his parents who were teachers in St. Paul. Now, fast forward a year and a half later, the two of them are getting married and they wanted to do a couple's journey for themselves on how they met and their story. And so they got married this last Memorial Day, and they played all of them at their wedding to just show this beautiful family story of how each couple came to be and how they all met. And it's just kind of incredible. And so that's what I mean is you never know how people will utilize our services and then what the impact will be. That's what I think is so cool. The possibilities are endless, but it's all rooted around this idea of celebrating others and preserving people, our family's love, so like
Yeah.
like your wife's mom.
Yeah. Well, so kind of, looking today, I mean, we've talked so much about the value of this service that you provide, and obviously your passion is clear. I think, one of the things that's speaking to a lot of business owners, just in my own business as part of Action Coach, but also just in life, is that there's a business aspect to this too, right? And so you mentioned that you're kind of doing all things, which sounds like a lot of the business owners that I coach. But tell me, is there one thing in particular that you would say, looking back on the past few years, or maybe in the past week, who knows? Is there one lesson that you feel like you've learned that through this journey, both on the business side and the storytelling side, that you think would be really helpful for another business owner to be able to hear from you as you walked through this yourself, that could help shorten their learning curve?
Yeah. um Boy, it's hard to pick one. I think the big thing for myself is that I believe in what you're doing. You didn't leave your cushy job, you didn't start a business for no reason. There's clearly a purpose behind what you're doing. And the lesson that I have learned is to keep faith, but also when you're struggling and you feel like things aren't going right, reach out. I'll give you my secret, and maybe this is something that will be helpful. I hope it's helpful for others out there. There's literally not a day that goes by where I haven't set up a meeting or a coffee or something with somebody else, just to build a relationship, have a conversation. One of the biggest challenges that I've heard from other entrepreneurs, but also solopreneurs, small business owners, there's a loneliness in this business of just the nature of it as you're trying to build it up. And so for me, I guess the big takeaway is believe in what you're doing and then reach out to others all the time. And you never know who you'll meet. Like, I'm so thankful you reached out, Marty, because hey, I met Davis, but now I get to sit here and chat with you. And it's wonderful.
Yeah, well, you touched on something I think that's really important, that loneliness factor for sure. But oftentimes the business owners that I talk to, they had the calling, they had the passion, they had the belief in what they did, but that could have been 3 years ago, it could have been 15 years ago. And there's days where they wake up and they're just like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? I'm doing all these different things. I don't feel like I'm getting the rewards financially. I'm not getting the rewards for my family and freedom and time and those types of things, and they've kind of lost that calling a little bit. And so I appreciate your transparency on this, and it's a very valid piece of advice that you just gave everybody about reaching out to people at least every few days, if not every day, because it'll help them. And but because some people might look at you and say, "Oh man, inherited stories! Wow, what a powerful message, and that's unique, and that's different than my business." But it's still a business, right? I'm sure you've gone through
Right.
some of the ups and downs, the mentally, emotionally, and maybe even financially. But I mean, those are the things that we oftentimes hear. Was there anything you would add to that?
Yeah, no, I wanted to piggyback off that and just say the thing that a lot of people who have never started a business don't understand is the sacrifice. There's a lot of folks that I know from my time being an employee on the employee side who look at CEOs, look at people who have started a business and they say, oh, how can they, be so rich? How can they go do, spend their money on X, Y, Z? Why aren't they sharing the wealth? Da, da, da. But you have no idea until you do what we're doing, the amount of personal sacrifice, financial, mental, emotional, physical, that people give to their businesses. I'm talking, and this, Marty, you live and breathe your business. This is not oh, I got my paycheck and now I can, go do whatever on my side. This is, I got a project on the weekend. Nope. Sorry, kids. I'm headed off to Iowa to go shoot a piece. Right. So I think that is a part where a lot of folks, they glamorize it. But when rubber meets the road, we live in a society where you need to make money and you need to have some sort of idea of how you're going to make that money. It can't all just be good intentions, right? So
Yeah, for
that's
a
a
lot of us, it's the business is business. It's a job, it's work, and it's leadership and it's strategic planning. And sometimes it's taking the garbage out on Friday night, but sometimes it's a hobby too, right? Our work in our life, I mean, it can't separate them so much. But well, thank you for that. I know I want to be respectful of your time because from what you've shared with me, there's a lot going on in your business, and I'm super excited for you. But is there any last tip that you'd like to offer anybody?
you know, it, I it's not a one size fits all when we're starting businesses. Boy, I've met some other folks where it's like, why didn't I think of that? But
Yeah.
that's not my calling. That's not what I was put here to do. And I think if you know yourself, you'll be a better business owner because then at that same time, you'll understand, well, what am I not so great at? Maybe your spouse can tell you that. But then you can find the people who will fill those gaps and make you a better person, better business owner, and hopefully create a more successful business.
I'm sure that's true. And speaking of that, I just as we wrap up, I know there's a lot of people that are watching that are likely going to be interested in your services as inherited stories, but they may also be interested in talking to you just business person to business person. What would be a good way for them to reach you?
Yeah, you can always reach us at our website. It's inheritedstories.org. My email is very simple. It's Dietrich period Nissen at inheritedstories.org. And yeah, those are the best ways. Otherwise, social media. I'm always happy to chat with people via LinkedIn and just like this via Zoom. So thank you again,
Sounds
Marty. I
great.
really appreciate this.
Yeah, we're grateful. Thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to staying in touch with you through the chamber programs that we're both part of. And but please, everybody, thank you for watching us. I told you this is going to be a great opportunity to learn from a very skilled business person, but also a skilled artist and someone that just has a lot of passion about people. And so we're grateful that you joined us today. Again, I'm Marty Rasmussen from Action Coach. We help businesses all around the world be the best that they can be to give them more time, more money, and more freedom in their lives. And so we look forward to seeing you in the next Business Owner Spotlight. Thanks again for joining us. See you next time.